Joining us on the show this morning is Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amaechi. He is the current Minister of Transportation in Nigeria. Welcome, sir, to the show. Are you there?
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you. All right, so because we have a lot to cover, we're going to go right into it. So some analysts are saying that the cost of constructing some of these projects that you've highlighted for us in the past 1 year or so, compared to other countries within Africa, that the costs are so high. Some have also said that these contractors pad up these costs. Could you help us get clarity if we are indeed getting the true value for the cost of constructing many of these roads and rails across the country?
Talk is cheap. It's the struggle that is that's the problem. Why not ask them to bring facts? One problem we have in Nigeria is the issue of statistics. For you to say those things, why not compare apple for apple? Let them show us where that they have seen that construction of railway is cheaper than what we're doing in Nigeria. That is important. I don't see why they will come to that conclusion when even some countries construct railway for about $5 million per kilometer, some 6. I think in Nigeria, some of our cases are $4.5 million per kilometer. So I don't think they are right unless they confront me with a comparative cost analysis between, say, Kenya, for instance, or Zambia, for instance, and Nigeria. I don't have that facts.
Okay, sir. Recently, you said that you were looking for money to begin work on the Lagos to Calabar rail and the Port Harcourt to Maiduguri rail because of a lot of...
I can hear you.
I said recently. Can you hear me now, sir?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, good. So you were talking about trying to raise money for the Lagos Calabar rail and the Port Harcourt Maiduguri rail as well. And you mentioned that this is because foreign investors have shown interest in the Nigerian rail system. What informs the infrastructure to develop within Nigeria? Is it all the time about foreign investors or what Nigerians need?
No, I never said about foreign investors on the rail. I just talked about contractors and the fact that they're able to raise the loan for us to do the construction. Again, I want to challenge anybody to show me where railway has been constructed based on foreign investment. It has always been the government funding railways. Where I talked about foreign investors is in the railways, is in the maritime sector, where I said that the Lekki Deep Sea Port is being constructed under PPP, and then the Bonny Deep Sea Port to be constructed under PPP, as well as the Warri Seaport.
Okay, sir. The president last Tuesday inaugurated the 326-kilometer Itakpe-Ajaokuta-Warri rail line for commercial operations 30 years after the project was conceived. Is it up and running now? The question is because sometimes we see commissionings done on uncompleted projects.
Well, give us another 1 week. Okay. By 1 week, we will start running, and gradually, I believe the passenger count will increase. We've been running before we stopped for commissioning, and the passenger count was just about 100 passengers in a day. We know that with time we'll improve to 300 to 500 depending on how it is. Unlike Kaduna, Abuja, where you have about 4,000 passengers per day.
Okay. All right, sir. Can you kindly tell us the economic viability of all of these projects that we have now? What's in it for us as a country?
First is railway does not put money on the table of the federal government. Railway is more like a social project. And if railway is more like a social project, what you're going to see will be that we'll be creating jobs. By the time you have about, in fact, let's take the one of Lagos-Ibadan. Lagos-Ibadan generated over 20,000 direct jobs. Indirect jobs are numerous, and we cannot say how much it has generated in terms of indirect jobs. Again, when you deal with railways, you talk about movement of goods, you talk about movement of persons, you talk about employment creation, you also talk about encouraging industrialization and manufacturing. That's what railway is about. These are the benefits that will happen. I've told you, well, not TVC. I just had an interview with AIT where I say that about 46% of manufacturing cost, 46% of manufacturing cost is borne by transportation. So if you remove that cost, now you will see that you've been able to save manufacturers about 54%. Well, all they will add will be 54%. So you've saved them about 46%. That's how it is.
All right, so let's talk about this issue of borrowing for these infrastructural projects. So we've borrowed $1.4 billion for the Lagos-Ibadan rail line. We borrowed $4.3 billion for the Ibadan to Kano, and we're about to also borrow to construct the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri. Now, the issue is that considering our debt profile, considering the fact that even our revenue is dwindling, how do you think we expect to pay back some of these huge loans?
How do I think that what?
How do we expect to pay back these huge loans from that we're getting this money from abroad? What, in your view?
That's the question you ask the Minister for Finance. The responsibility of Ministry of Transport is to ask Ministry of Finance to give them the resources for construction of rail lines. And when they give it to us, we construct. To pay back is the responsibility of Ministry of Finance. It could be in the course of construction. I mean, at the end of construction, if we run it efficiently, but hardly can you recover because rail lines are subsidized. Rail transportation is subsidized. So it will be difficult to say you can pay back from.
Let me be sure I get you right. You're saying as a minister, your job is to go and find the loan, build, and let the finance ministry worry about how they're going to pay back the loan. Is that what you're saying in essence?
No, I didn't say that. Oh. I said both how to find the loan and how to pay back. It's not the responsibility of Ministry of Transport. That is the responsibility of Ministry of Finance. My responsibility is to get the money and construct the railway. So I wouldn't be able to discuss the issue of how and when the country will pay back, but we must comply with the terms of and agreements of the loan.
So just following what you concluded on last time, that we have to find out ways to pay, and that's the responsibility of the Ministry of Finance. Let's discuss the terms of this contract that everybody has been discussing. You know, the House before the House committee on, I think, on the contracts, and they were going at the terms of this contract, that there was a sovereignty clause. What exactly are the terms? How should we be afraid, you know, if Nigeria should default? What are the consequences for defaulting? Mm-hmm. And then also, I want you to use the example of the Sri Lanka ports taken over recently by China, you know, to understand my question.
Yes, I was going to add to that. So, for example, the issues that happened in Sri Lanka, the forfeiture of their national assets in Sri Lanka, Tanzania, and Zambia. Should we be worried? Because if we default, just like Nima said, we might have to lose some of our assets.
Let me ask you, you young ladies, a question. Would you like to borrow money and not pay back?
No, of course not, but life happens.
Life happens. Unfortunately, we've not been able to generate enough revenue.
Don't worry. This life won't happen.
Amen.
We have never been known. Don't do that here business. We have never been known to have not paid our loans. Neither have we been known not to keep to the terms of agreement. So if the terms of agreement include the fact that if you don't pay back, they would confiscate any property that is part of the loan agreement, then so be it. But then we should work towards repayment. You can't have built all these infrastructures. Don't worry, young ladies. By that, I won't give you that opportunity. Let's say by January, we'll be running Lagos to Ibadan. And I'll be glad if you use it and see how you feel, whether you will repeat the question you asked me now, or you'll be satisfied that you have a good investment in terms of infrastructure. I asked Nigerians these questions. When we had money, when Obasanjo said he left $68 billion in our excess crude account, why couldn't we have constructed railway with all that money? Because don't forget, I have said here that to connect the whole of Nigeria, you need about nearly $36 to $40 billion to connect the whole of state capitals. And that would be the whole country. Why didn't we do it then when we had money? Why would we fritter away the funds? And then we come in with no funds. We're doing very much with very little. And I think that what you can say is that we will pay back our loans. So what happened in Sri Lanka will not happen here.
Okay.
So this is not the first time our country has we've had a problem of debt. So the Obasanjo administration you mentioned had to do, get this our debts waived in the past. You know, there's a likelihood of mismanagement. There's also that likelihood, and your administration is just going to be there 4 years. It's not going to be forever.
That's a continuum.
I think shouldn't there be that concern of more lenient terms in our contracts for our people?